welcoming to our Newsmaker live in the studio this morning, Hornell Mayor John Buckley. Mr. Mayor, thanks for stopping up.
Thanks for having me, Brian, and happy 2019.
Yes, and it's back to the Newsmaker show for myself here, for me, for the first day. As the past 2 weeks have been Kevin Dorn from the archives of the Newsmaker shows. Did you catch any of those?
I did, and it's very interesting listening to Kevin, especially back in the the 70s, early 80s. Just the command of his voice, and actually, if you listen to those old shows, you can really clearly hear that it was back in those days, and it was kind of a time period piece. His voice inflection, the way he spoke, kind of reminiscent of announcers from that time.
Heck of an announcer, that's for sure.
Yeah, he was a great guy. I still, going back, I still remember some of the first times that I interviewed with him on the radio, and being a young alderman at the time, and I remember the first time I actually sat down on the Newsmaker. I generally don't get nervous on the radio, but sitting down with Kevin, and he was just an icon, not just in our Hornell, but just the entire area in the industry. And sitting down with him, you never really knew what questions he was going to throw you, and you had to be prepared for anything. But I tell you what, he was just not only was he a great radio announcer, he was a tremendous advocate for the area, tremendous advocate for healthcare in the area, and he's, to this day, he's still sorely missed.
Well, thanks for the kind words, John. 2018, looking back on the year 2018, your thoughts?
Well, it's been a busy year, to say the least. As a new mayor, there's been so many different things I've been working on. New appointments right out of the gates. Appointing 3 new commissioners to one to the Board of Public Safety, 2 new commissioners to the Board of Public Works, appointing a new deputy mayor. Creating the new Policies and Procedures Committee. There's been so much. I don't know where you want to start, Brian, but we could probably spend the next 2 hours talking about it.
The City Chamberlain, Michelle Smith, that was one of the big things. So
he changed the. We were successfully able to change the term of office for the City Chamberlain in the past year, which I think is a really good and smart thing to do. Before the term of office was a 2-year term, and every other term, the Chamberlain's office and the mayor's office would be up at the same time. And I thought it'd be a good idea to, a smart idea really, to have those terms staggered and have the Chamberlain's term a 4-year term. And that way it ensures that the Chamberlain and the mayor, you'll never have a new mayor and a new Chamberlain at the same time, which really builds in a protection for voters. Because if you're ever to have those 2 offices turn over at the same time, it'd be very challenging, to say the least, because those 2 positions really lean on one another and count on one another, and in a day-to-day basis, and not only that, but especially budget time, all matters fiscal. The Chamberlain is the CFO of the city, responsible for all the financial matters. So and the other thing about those 2 offices, Brian, the mayor's office and the office of the City Chamberlain, are the only 2 full-time elected offices in the city of Hornell. So.
TTA, now that was another big story in 2018.
Yeah, TTA, and that kind of dovetails with Alstom. TTA's been ramping up. I know Alstom gets a lot of the news coverage, but TTA's been doing wonderfully. They're in the middle of doing an expansion right now. Adding more jobs, adding more infrastructure, adding more square footage, and the city was able to partner with them and secure some community development block grant monies for them in order to really launch that expansion that they're doing. So they're doing well, and as are other companies and businesses, large and small, in Hornell.
Now, St. James in 2018, they got a lot of work done on the new hospital construction, and then they got into their new medical office building facility.
Boy, and what a long road that has been over the years. Going from pounding yard signs, everyone remembers the Save Our Hospital yard signs that we were putting in people's lawns in the dead of winter, not too many years ago, from having the dual ribbon cutting ceremonies for Oak Orchard and the medical office building in the same day. And what a joy, what a relief, what a celebration that is to go from almost not having any healthcare in Hornell to having a state-of-the-art brand new facility. And we're basically 12 or 13 months away from opening the doors on the hospital itself, which will be another celebration. So we've come a long way. There's so many people to thank, but first and foremost, I thank the people. It was really a community effort, and not just Hornell, but the entire valley, the entire region. All the communities banded together and had one voice, and it was a strong voice, and it sent a clear message that we are deserving, and we demand nothing less but the best health care available, and that's what we're getting.
2018, there was also a lot of new housing in Hornell.
Oh, and it'll continue into 19.
Continues the construction.
Yeah. So Reedman, the Reedman Corp came in and built up on Fairlawn, Bassett, up adjacent to the airport. We've got Park Grove Realty, who are getting closer and closer to making the the old Marion and Roar building into some housing units there. I believe they're going to probably put in about 20 units, and we're in talks with them to put another development in over on Shawmut Drive, and that'll be 60 affordable units there. So that'll be some more housing and more kind of moderately income housing. So that'll be a definite boost for Hornell. And one of the problems, Brian, is we have so much growth in industry and business, and people are moving into Hornell, but there's not a whole lot of houses for sale in the neighborhoods because we're stuck in a valley and we're walled off on 2 of the 4 sides. So where do you go to build? So we're very fortunate. We've had some of these areas that are developable, and very fortunate that developers have come in and done this, made that investment.
So lots happened in 2018. There was a lot of paving. There was some bridge work.
Yeah, and that goes right into 2019. We've got a pair of bridges that'll be being replaced coming this spring. The bridge on Seneca Street, right across from the American Legion, that bridge will be coming out, and that'll be replaced. And the bridge right over the East Main Street bridge, there's a smaller bridge. It's actually a box culvert over Chauncey Run, and that'll be coming out as well and being replaced. So we'll have 2 bridges simultaneously being replaced, and I know it's going to cause some traffic headaches, but the end result will be a positive one. We'll have 2 new bridges that you and I won't have to worry about for the rest of our lives, so that's always a plus. And then the following year, actually in 2020, the Canasteel Street Bridge will be torn out and replaced, and that one has been in just total disrepair for a long time. Well, unfortunately, to get on some of these programs such as Bridge New York, they have to pass certain tests, actually I should say fail certain tests. And even though certain bridges may appear to be broken down and aged, it's really what's under the bridge, and that's how they test them. So very, very excited to have 3 bridges in the next 2 years be replaced.
The warehouse, that is a very promising new business.
I'm very excited for the Fleiss brothers, and and some of the listeners out there will remember the Fleiss brothers for their pants sagging business that they started some years ago and been very successful with that clothing brand. Well, they've never forgotten their roots. They've never forgotten Hornell, and this is their home. This is where they still come back and visit and spend time, and it's so nice to see young entrepreneurs making that investment right here in their hometown in Hornell, New York. In the warehouse, they purchased that, and they've renovated it and put a lot of money into it, put a lot of work into it, and it's really going to be kind of a mini version of Tags. And if your listeners aren't familiar with Tags, Tags is out toward Elmira and in the Corning Elmira area, and what that is it's a venue where you can have parties, you can have concerts, you can have wedding receptions, and it's a kind of a multi-use facility. And what they're looking to do is have a mini version of that right here in Hornell and attract some music groups and different things, maybe some comedy. Definitely, they've already done a couple of weddings there. I know they hosted, I think it was the Arkport prom they hosted back in the springtime. So they've already been getting some use out of it, and very excited because I think the sky's the limit, and they'll get a lot of use out of that tremendous location right there on Broadway.
And we're talking live with Hornell Mayor John Buckley this morning. Going to take a quick break. We'll be back in just a moment.
In with the new and out with the old in the new year. We're talking fiber versus cable, and fiber wins. Empire Access with the fastest internet in town. Fiber speeds 100 meg down and 20 up, bundled with digital TV for just $65 a month. And if you want to share, stream, game, surf, and learn 10 times faster than that, upgrade to gigabit speed. Only available from Empire Access. Ditch that cable and make the switch today to the fastest fiber internet. Bundled with TV for just $65 a month. A savings of over $340. Online at EmpireAccess.com.
Checking in now with meteorologist Rob Carolyn, who says if you're out driving tonight, watch the roads.
Yes, one of those times, Brian, where we have to be careful. National Weather Service being proactive, putting a winter weather advisory up from 7 p.m. this evening through about 7 a.m. tomorrow morning. We've got this little wave of low pressure that's going to push in. It's going to push some warm, moist air up over the top of the cold air we have in place this morning, and that is going to lead to kind of some messy precipitation across the area later today, but especially tonight into early tomorrow morning. So, as you mentioned, folks do need to be careful if they're going to be on the roads tonight. We do have cloudiness heading our way. It will thicken this morning. A little bit of light snow and sleet will develop this afternoon. Any accumulations under an inch. It's going to be very light precipitation. We're 30 to 35. Sunrise earlier this morning was at 7:39. It'll set this evening at 4:55. Tonight we'll see a mixture of light freezing rain and sleet at times. It'll be breezy, 27 to 32 overnight. So with temperatures below freezing, whatever strikes the pavement will ice it up if it's not treated, so be careful. Tomorrow we get warmer air into the region. That will help us out. Clouds, scattered showers, and 45. Tomorrow night we'll have rain showers changing to snow showers late tomorrow night, so it gets slick once again, lows near 30. And then occasional snow showers Wednesday, 30 to 35. And Brian, looks like some colder weather then heads our way for Thursday, Friday, and into Saturday of next weekend.
And we're back with Hornell Mayor John Buckley. There is a shutdown, and it's a back-to-school day. So what are your thoughts on the shutdown, Mayor Buckley?
Well, it's very disappointing, and it should come no surprise to anyone that the president has advocated time and time again. He campaigned for the wall on the southern border, so it should be no surprise that he's pushing hard for that. But it also should be no surprise that the Democrats don't want to fund it. I think they've been very clear on the matter. So you have two sides that are very far apart. What is a little surprising, or probably the word disappointing would be more accurate, is the lack of willingness to work together and to come to some sort of compromise, because that's the way effective good government should work, is when you have two opposing views, you try to find that common ground or find that middle ground. And sometimes it involves a little horse trading. Sometimes you don't always get what you want, as the old Rolling Stones song would suggest. But the important part is both sides need to come together and have that dialogue, have those conversations, and figure out a path forward. Basically, you have two sides saying, I want this and I want that, and neither side can come together, and hence the shutdown, and nothing gets done. It's very frustrating to watch that. When you and I were growing up, Brian, we grew up in the Reagan era. And, back then we had divided government as well. The Democrats held the House and held the Senate, and President Reagan, a Republican, held the executive branch. But, the beautiful thing about government back in those days, and even going forward into the Clinton years with where that scenario was basically flip-flopped is, President Reagan could work with the Democrats. President Reagan and Tip O'Neill would get together after hours and try to work things out and successfully, and they would do that. And fast forward to the Clinton years, Bill Clinton was able to sit down with Newt Gingrich and the Republican leadership and figure out a path forward where each side would get certain things and move legislatively, move the agenda forward and get that important work done for the American people. And that's not happening now, and it's a shame. And it's really gone downhill. Ever since in my mind, the second term of Bush the second, politics has just become polarized, and it's just progressively gone downhill and spiraled out of control. And people can point the finger to Donald Trump and I don't like him and he's he does this and he says that. It really started in my mind in in the later Clinton years, as far as the divisiveness I'm talking about, in the Clinton years and into the Bush years, and then it's just gotten progressively worse. So very disappointing to see that. The big losers in this, of course, are the American people, because good government is just not getting done when the two sides can't come together and talk and work together effectively.
Ocasio Cortez in the news this morning. The Congresswoman from downstate was on 60 Minutes last night and said the president is a racist.
Well, people like to say this, that, and the other thing. It's easy for the so-called or the self-described socialist Democrat to come out and make these accusations. Trump's a New York socialite. I think he's probably anything but racist, but that's just my opinion.
They just discovered that when he ran for president. Before that, he was their best friend.
Well, I guess when he was on the Celebrity Apprentice, then he was everyone's best friend. Everyone loved him, but as far until you run for office and you disagree with the policy, then you're a racist, a bigot, a homophobe, or whatever other accusations you want to toss around. But that goes both ways too. That both sides do that. Both sides demonize the other, and shame on people that do that. I think you should just stick to the policy debate. Make your points, try to win the argument, and move forward.
Some of the candidates in the news lately on the Democrat side, as far as a White House run go, Senator Warren and former Vice President, former Senator Joe Biden. What do you make of those two and their chances?
Well, I mean, no surprises there. Joe Biden's been kind of sticking his toe in the pool for a while. I think everyone expected Senator Warren to get in the race. I think Senator Warren, as far as ideology, is very far to the left, and and Biden's pretty far to the left these days as well. I think what you're going to see, Brian, is as time marches on, you probably see a flip-flop of what we saw at the last presidential cycle, where we had 16 Republicans vying for the presidency. I think you'll probably see a number of Democrats probably approaching that number, 15, 16, get in the race. Some of the they'll get weeded out through the primary process, obviously, and money has a lot to do with it. It's when you have so many candidates, there's only so many major funding sources for those candidates, so they'll all be kind of jockeying for position, so to speak. But it'll be interesting, and for those who love to see the political games commence, then you won't have to wait too much longer, I suppose.
Now, is on the topic of national politics. Just wondering, have you spoken lately with the offices of Congressman Tom Reed lately, or Senator Gillibrand, or Senator Schumer?
Well, the two senators, they're more on the national level. Congressman Reed, I do see him a little more frequently. He's in district. The difference between a congressman and those two senators is the congressman has a smaller district where those two senators have the entire state, so they don't really come around as much as the congressman. So, Congressman Reed and I do talk. I'm in contact with his office pretty much on every other week. We're in contact. We're actually working together on a Crosby Street project, trying to find some funding for that project to repave and recurb that street. So, So to answer your question, we are in contact. We do talk about, most of the things we talk about aren't really of the political nature. They're more of what's going on locally. I have this project. How can you help me with that? Or he'll say, hey, have you looked at this funding stream? We think we could try to, fit a project that would be suitable for that. So it's more, how does Hornell benefit? How does the region benefit? Those are more of the conversations I have with our congressman.
Sure thing. Well, we've been talking with Hornell Mayor John Buckley live in the studio this morning. Down to about 60 seconds. Anything I did not bring up? Any final topics, Mayor Buckley?
Well, just kind of, the way we started the show talking about Kevin Doran and, just listening to some of those older shows, it really kind of takes me back. And, not only to my childhood, because a lot of those shows, I was pretty young when he was announcing those, but, the time period itself, back in those days, you had functioning government where Democrats and Republicans could have conversations and things weren't so polarized, and you could actually accomplish a lot. And that's what I try to do at the city level, is have those conversations. Doesn't matter if you're Republican or Democrat at the local level. All that matters is you're a stakeholder in the community and you want to move the community forward, and that's what we try to do each and every day.
Well, thank you so much for the nice words, and thanks for stopping in, Mayor Buckley.
Well, it's always a pleasure to be here. Thanks a lot for having me, Brian.
AM 1480, WLEA Hornell.
There is a new law in the works in San Francisco taking